Welcome to the Storycraft Cafe. Come in, grab a cup of your favorite beverage, and get ready to join the storytelling conversation. Storycraft Cafe is brought to you by Dabble, the ultimate cloud-based fiction writing software. Here we're going to bring together storytellers from all walks to encourage and empower you to craft your best story. NaNoWriMo is coming up very soon in November, and we're going to be hosting a special Preptober event to help you learn all about Dabble and how it can help you get ready for NaNoWriMo. Join us over at storycraft.cafe or dabblewriter.com for more information. Now on to our interview. And we are live in the Storycraft Cafe. I am your host, Hank Garner. Today, I am super excited to welcome Zach Kristensen here into the cafe with us. Zach is with Juxtabook, and it is a company that I have just am getting familiar with, but what a phenomenal service that you guys offer. Zach, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Hank. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. Zach, it's always fun to start a conversation off with a fun question to kind of set the tone. And one thing that I love to ask people is, what is your first memory of wanting to be a writer or storyteller?
You know, I think it was when I was in fifth grade. I remember just one day thinking like, I'd like to write a book someday. And honestly, I'm still working on that, but I work with authors all the time. So maybe that helps supplement my desire to get there one day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Were you surrounded by people who had the storytelling gene, if you will? Some families, they're just kind of natural born storytellers, or some people have, a teacher who influences them. There's someone of influence that kind of lets you know that, this is something that's okay to pursue. I can think back to several people in my life who I can attribute just the positive feedback that I got. Did you ever have anyone like that in your life who just kind of saw this thing in you and offered encouragement?
Yeah, I always had parents that would read to me, and they gave me great, like exposure to literature. And the other memory that really comes to mind is in seventh grade, you're going through that junior high. That's when I first entered in, and it's kind of awkward. And I had a teacher, an English teacher, who was just very different than you would expect from a normal English teacher, I think. And so she was always encouraging for us to read, explore, to write what we wanted to, kind of gave us that creative reign. And I think that's where I really got into books. And around that time, that's when the Harry Potter series was getting really big. And I remember reading the first book in my reading language and arts class. And I think that just shows me the power of story. No matter what type of book you're writing, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, people always remember the stories. They remember the characters. They remember you in there. That's what people remember.
Right. You have been involved in the publishing industry since 2011, I think it is.
Yeah.
What got you? What was the open door for you?
Yeah. So I was in my last year of my undergrad out in Utah, Weber State University. And so I was thinking about what am I going to do for a full-time job? And I had studied psychology with a minor in business, so a little bit different than the writing avenue. But a local company, corporate company there was FranklinCovey. And so they're famous for writing The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People with Stephen R. Covey. So I one day was able to network into the company and ended up getting an internship after bugging the hiring manager for probably 4 or 5 months. Let me come in. I want to learn. And so they brought me on. I learned about the book industry from their point of view, was brought on full time, and then just kind of learned it from there. And then there were some times where I was gone from FranklinCovey for a few years, but then I went back before I broke out full time with Juxtabook. And so that's where I've really learned it from, kind of the business self-help perspective of working with FranklinCovey.
Nice. You you mentioned studying psychology, and that on the surface that doesn't seem like that there's any connection with writing or storytelling or communication like that. But I've always found that I know a number of authors who studied psychology, and other of the humanities. And I've always thought that was fascinating because what better way to learn to communicate with people than to study why people think the way they do and why we perceive the world the way we do and why we process stories, the way that we do. And, looking back now, can you see any tools in your toolkit that you picked up from that line of study?
Yeah, I think talking general psychology, just really understanding why people do what they do and bringing that into your writing. Like if you're a fiction author, crafting the character, understanding what's motivating them, what experiences have they had in their life that are going to influence the choices they make. Because that's really why we as individuals, that's one of the ways that influences the decisions and choices that we make. I went on to study organizational psychology, and so that really applied to the business side of things. And so that really brought in a lot of different theory and perspectives on the nonfiction side and working with authors in that capacity. But it always just comes back to understanding what motivates people within your story and outside of your story and book to help authors sell it, honestly, and resonate with their target audience.
Yeah. And you mentioned nonfiction. We think that there's a clear delineation between fiction and nonfiction. And in a lot of ways there is. I mean, one is obviously made up out of whole cloth, and the other is you're trying to convey, some sort of real life, either instruction or self-help or, whatever the subcategory is. But storytelling still seeps into even nonfiction because communicating with your reader, and especially in a way that makes them not only remember what you have to say, but internalize it and take the truths that you are explaining and make it be a part of their makeup. That's a very specific talent, and one that is very close to fiction writing, I've seen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like in fiction, generally, you're trying to get your readers to resonate with the characters and relate to the characters. But for nonfiction writers, whether it's self-help, business, and health, or whatever it is, you're relating them to themselves, but as well as to you as the author. You need to show that, hey, as the reader, they're taking time to read your book and invest their valuable time. And so you as the author have the responsibility to show why you're the one they need to listen to, why you have something that can help them. And the best way to do that, as you mentioned, is through stories. Stories are brought over. And so being a good storyteller as a nonfiction author is, I think, essential and puts you a cut above the rest if you're competing, and especially in a highly competitive genre.
Right. For anyone who's listening who's not familiar with FranklinCovey and the 7 Habits, are there things that you gained from your association with them that you now implement in the work that you do now?
Yeah. I think one is The 7 Habits was written by Stephen R. Covey. And that book was published in I think it was 1989, if I remember correctly.
That sounds about right.
And the book wasn't a bestseller at first. It wasn't as big as it is now. On average, that book probably sells 4,000 to 5,000 copies a week still when we were watching those numbers. And that's retail sales. And so to get to that level, I took that it takes work. It takes honing your craft and to keep going. And even before that, Stephen R. Covey was teaching his course and teaching the 7 Habits in his course at the university, the Brigham Young University in Utah. And he was teaching it. And so he was continually refining that. And so I think from that, I took it's a lifelong process. And so it's as you're learning as an author to take what's in your mind and what your expertise are and putting that on paper, it's never going to be perfect. You're always going to continue to refine. So like once you have something that you know is of value, like get it out there, like get it out there and publish it. And you'll be surprised, like it really helps people.
Yeah. So what happened in 2011 when you went to work for FranklinCovey? What then helped you transition to what is now Juxtabook?
Yeah. So while I was at FranklinCovey, I learned through a software that I don't think the business exists anymore, how to build ebooks and video enhanced ebooks. And video enhanced ebooks really aren't really there anymore. But and while we were there, like my manager would get people outside of FranklinCovey approaching her, and she'd been at the company at that time for 20 years. And then I started getting people like, hey, how do you publish a book? And I get one with FranklinCovey. And I said, well, not really. You have to be in-house. But that's where the idea of Juxtabook came, is like, why don't I see if I can help authors on the side? So it started out as helping authors publish an ebook and build their ebook, or converting their ebook that they would self-publish. And then from there it went to like, hey, let's start pitching and acting as a literary agent for authors, and then has grown as a side business. And then about 2 years ago, I started taking it seriously, and now I'm doing it full time to be able to help authors through book development, through building their author brand, and through launching their book. And that's kind of like the evolvement over, I guess, that many years, like over 10 years. Time flies, right?
Right. In 2011, the Kindle was a new entity, and that whole ecosystem grew up out of and around the Kindle, with Kindle Direct Publishing, and self-publishing really became this other thing, due to the infrastructure that built up around it. But before that, I remember buying all sorts of ebooks online for various things, and it would usually be a PDF that you would download, you would read on your computer screen. And that was kind of where ebooks were at the time. Has the Kindle revolution, as we call it, and self-publishing that, kind of gained this whole other platform, you were there for that whole growth, and how are nonfiction ebooks different today than they were back then, as far as distribution and how you go about gathering customers, and there's been seismic changes since you began.
Absolutely. No, I mean, it was new. There was a lot of concern in the traditional publishing industry in general. Like, are people going to buy less of the hardcover or the soft cover hard copy of the book? Are they going to, is this going to cannibalize sales? Are like people going to be able to steal this content and then publish their own? Like, there was a lot of concerns. And I think like those are still out there, but they're largely been accepted. Like, hey, if you're going to publish a book, you got to have an ebook with it, because there is a segment of individuals who want to read ebooks. Now, the trends are honestly, actually, the ebooks generally are declining. Now, that will vary by genre. The audiobooks are on a huge rise. Like, it's almost becoming hardcover. It is pretty much hardcover, audiobook, and then ebook. As far as
audio is the biggest growth market right now.
Absolutely. Audiobooks are just huge. And I think you can see evidence of that with podcasts, how many people listen to podcasts, and it's crazy. And so I think like there are so many more ebooks that are published now. Like, I think like the barrier to entry from when we started is a lot lower. You just need to know how to pretty much format a Word doc now. And then you can have a nice looking ebook.
Right. So, when you first started, you were wanting to help authors to, publish and to kind of find their place. And when did this go from being a side business to you realizing, oh, this thing has legs, and we need to take it to the next level? What was the kind of growth of Juxtabook like?
Yeah, I think honestly, it was probably like 3 years ago. I decided, like, you know what, like I need to decide, do I want to take this seriously or do I want to continue to be kind of like a so-so hobby business? And it wasn't really clear to me, like who's my target audience as a business? Who do I want to help? Because I was like, oh, I can help any author. In reality, like you can't help every author. Like every genre, every type of author has something specific that's unique to them, and you need the right fit for someone to help you with that. And so I got with someone I knew who was a coach who coached businesses, and I really got like a business plan together. And then from there, I've just continually refined and thought, okay, and realized like who is approaching me, and it's ended up being like people who have they're coaches, consultants, or they have some type of expertise that they want to turn into a book for one reason or another. And that's really the market that we're starting to serve and the market that we have the most expertise in right now.
So we talked about how publishing has changed and how the Kindle coming about and how, the rise of ebooks. Really, the industry was worried about cannibalism and all of that. Mm-hmm. How do you see where publishing is today versus the kind of those Wild West days in the beginning where, there was a lot of fear about what was going on and versus now? Yeah. No. I think right now, I'm going to go straight to it, is artificial intelligence, AI. Like that is the new Wild West that has tons of authors concerned. Like I'm reading about like some high profile fiction authors that are putting lawsuits together against these companies because they're concerned about their content being stolen. And someone, if you're in the industry, Jane Friedman, in the industry, who's been an editor, has great content. She had a book published under her name that was written by AI. And so like there's just incredible worry about it. And I think that's valid and should be very cautionary for any author to know and think about how could it impact them. And so we're in the Wild West, I think, of that. And I think eventually it'll get better to know things. And Amazon recently, when you're publishing through KDP, they've a check mark, I think a check mark or a drop down that I saw that asks about, was this any or part of this generated with AI? And so like, it's unclear, like, what does that mean? Are they just gathering market research, or are they going to say one day, we tricked you. Now, if it's generated with AI, like it's off, like immediately, like it's off. So like, who knows? But I'm also super excited about it because I see huge value in AI in helping authors market their books. Like, just imagine taking what you've worked hard writing and putting that into AI and say, hey, using this document, create social posts, help me generate marketing ideas, like help me find my audience. And it's just going to save authors a ton of time, I believe, and leverage what they've already created. Right. One thing I'm excited about with AI is, and we've done a lot of experimenting. One thing that I've found really useful is the ability to help you brainstorm ideas. Yeah. And we all our minds want to go to the worst case scenario, and that's people that are writing entire books with AI. And we can debate about, whether that's good or bad or whatever, but smartly using the tools. I was doing a session the other day and used it in the same way that I would have a conversation with a friend where we're bouncing ideas off of each other. And, what about this? And, and then that sparks something else. And then you kind of feed that back into the AI and they come back with some suggestions. And I don't exactly like all of your suggestions, but it does spark something. And just the kind of the back and forth conversational nature, I think is very valuable. Now, where that all shakes out, we'll see. But I do see definite benefit that we can gain from that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an incredible tool for that. And I found, like, even for my day-to-day workers, I'm honing my craft, that it helps me. And if I'm kind of like brain dead a bit and kind of need some creative juices going. So I'm like, I was trying to come up with a more compelling one-liner for what we do. And with the help of AI, I was able to come up with one that has been received well as I've tested it with authors and got the human influence on it. And it's been hugely helpful. And I think authors can use the same thing, especially for book titles. If you need a book title, an idea around brainstorming a book title, like AI is great for that. Like if you're like, I don't want to say it this way, I want to keep the essence of it, but how can I say it differently? And you get 20 ideas, you can kind of cherry pick stuff, and then it might trigger something in your mind like, oh, this would be perfect. And it can be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of feedback are you getting from people when around this AI conversation? Or I know there's a lot of trepidation, but that are people seeing the benefits, or do you think we have more work to do with getting steering the conversation to a more positive place?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's work done on both sides that is still there. Like, I think generally people are curious. The authors I've talked to are like, want to know more about how to leverage it. And then there's some that I've talked to a few ghostwriters, and they're highly concerned that will this like reduce the amount of business that they get. And that's one example. I've talked to another ghostwriter. They dove right in and figured out how can we leverage this tool to help streamline our process and provide more value and less cost, but still be profitable for them, for their authors, because ghostwriting can be very expensive. And so like that can create a win-win scenario if you can know how to leverage AI to have reduced costs, but still make it a win-win situation for both author and customer.
Right. So with Juxtabook, you said for the last 3 years or so, you have really kind of doubled down on figuring out who your customer was and kind of what your place in the market was. What services do you offer now? Say if someone comes to you and says, I have an idea for a book, but I'm not really sure how to execute. And then once I have the idea and I get a draft written, what do I do with it? Then where do you fit into to the author / publisher's life?
Yeah. So this is going to be broad, but I can help anyone. We can help anyone anywhere from the book development all the way through the launch of their book. So if someone came and said, I want to be an author, what do I do? We can help coach them. I get on calls once or twice a month with authors and talk through them. Where are they at? What are they envisioning? Are they writing? Where are they getting stuck in their writing? So we can help coach them. We can help do stuff for them. We can act as an agent if they want to traditionally publish, or we can help them self-publish their book to the extent that they want us to be involved. And then helping them build their author brand, as well as launching and marketing their book, whether that's just coming up with a plan or helping them execute on that plan as well. And so it really depends on, why does an author want to write a book? Like, we always start with that. Why do they want to write a book? And then what kind of budget do they have? What do they envision for their goals for their book and for themselves as an author? And then we come up with a customized approach that we hope is a win for us and for them.
There, throughout the rise of the indie publishing revolution, there have been lots of thoughts about whether indie publishing was the way to go, whether traditional publishing, the kind of the old guard, as it was got to be looked at, the gatekeepers, that term was thrown around a lot, and I feel like that we're course correcting a little bit in realizing that there's not a good guy and a bad guy in it, but there are different ways to publish depending on your needs. Do you feel like when someone comes to you and says, I have this idea, maybe I even have a draft written, and I need to know how to get it out to the world. Are there certain types of books that should always be, marketed to the traditional publishing route? Are there certain types that should always be indie published or self-published, or does it come down to the author and their goals? Like, are there certain things that just definitely always work here versus always work there? Or is it just dependent on what the author is trying to do and what their end goal is?
Yeah, it's the latter of what you said. It really depends on the author's goals. Like, what do you want to accomplish as an author? Like, I believe books impact our culture immensely. And so if you want to have an impact, you got to decide what's the size of that impact. I've met with authors who say, I just want to get a book out there and have it for my family. I recommend self-publishing for that route, typically. And there's lots of little avenues, even within self-publishing, depending on the author's goals. If an author is really wanting to traditionally publish, like I say, okay, shoot for that route. You just need to know what it's going to take. And we run through within their genre, like, if you're going the fiction route, just so you know, you're going to have to probably have a way to sell your book and market your book on your own. If you have a platform already, that's great. But you also may be 5, 6, 7 books into something before you really see a return on the investment that you've made. And in that case, for fiction, you got to make sure that you have something that's unique, compelling out there, and that it's going to fit with the publisher, and that they may not have something of that type in there. For nonfiction, honestly, it's so much dependent on the publisher, but then also what's your author platform, meaning your brand, your expertise, and your following. Like, what's your social media following, what's your email subscription list like, or what's your business connections? How are you going to sell the book? A publisher is a publisher. They're not, it's ironic, but they're not a bookseller.
Right.
They're a distributor, really. And it's really up to the author, which is a hard truth sometimes for authors to accept, that like, wait, what? I did all this hard work to write a book, and now I have to do all the hard work to market it. Yeah, to an extent you do. Yeah. No one's going to care as much about your book as you do.
Yeah, I think that there used to be this idea that the author, just sat in a little cabin on the top of the hill and pounded out books and, threw it down the hill and someone else took it. And, that is absolutely not the case.
It used to be. Yeah.
Right. And it's really interesting because in almost the same timeline, there's an interesting overlap here between the indie publishing revolution and social media and all of that, where almost the same time these things kind of rose into our collective, social consciousness. What were people doing before the idea of building an online brand and all of that to sell books? Because now it very much you need to have a social media presence. You need to have a website. You need to be communicating with your readers, not just constantly, trying to sell your book, at their face. You need to build relationships and all that. What were people doing before we had all of this mass communication at our fingertips?
Yeah. Well, typically you would be going, if you're traditionally publishing, finding a publisher, and then they would be getting it in the brick and mortar stores, getting it in like the Barnes and Nobles, the Books A Million. And I think those types of channels, but then it would be author tours. It would be an author traveling around to 20, 30 cities over a few months period and promoting their book. Then it was also getting on talk shows. Like if you could get on, it used to be if you could get on like a morning talk show, like you were like guaranteed to like sell a lot of books. And getting reviews, like a New York Times review, if you got that, like, and it was featured, like you are going to sell books. Like it was a pretty strong guarantee you were going to do well. And that's what people were doing before. And like, if you were going to be independently publishing, cause that's been still around. It's not as popular then as it is now.
Yeah.
And so like you would probably get with your local bookstores, and you would probably need some cash up front because print on demand wasn't as readily available. So you'd have to have some cash up front to be able to print and go around and sell your books and go to local bookshops or try and get it on at your local brick and mortar store. Just a lot of hustle, kind of that hit the pavement and see what you can do and spread by word of mouth.
Yeah, well, social media has really lowered the hurdles to getting an author platform built. It used to be like a serious investment in time and expense to get out in front of people. You had to really, like you said, you had to go on tour. You had to physically put yourself in front of people, and that was just not possible for the vast majority of people trying to break into writing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tough. Much easier now.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
So this author brand and this platform, what do you recommend people say someone comes to you, they've got a brilliant idea. They've got a book worked out. This is going to, if people see this book, it's going to be a success. But they say they don't have an author platform yet. Yeah. Where in the process do you recommend people start working on their platform? Is it before they ever write and publish the book? Do they need to have something finished before they start building relationships with people? What is the general wisdom these days on how to start building that platform?
Yeah. Now. No matter what stage you're at, like if it's just an idea, whether you're done with your book, in the middle of your book, like, or shopping around, like now is the time to start building your platform. And I'm a huge advocate for email lists still. Like social media is great, but as we all know, one change in the algorithm can have a huge impact on authors. Or if you get hacked, like you can lose a lot of trust. And so like you want to lead people to an email list, and that's what I advocate for. And then if you're wondering as an author, like, well, where do I start? What do I post? Start talking about your idea. Start talking about your author journey. Like if you're writing, say like, do a selfie and be like, hey, I'm writing my book today. I'm working on chapter 2, which is on how to be more deliberate in your communication, as an example. Like, and that's all you need to do. Like it's getting it warmed up. It's getting people to know you. It's the frequency that people need to know of, and the consistency. Like that's huge, that consistency, as you're starting to build your brand. And so like, it's just start now. And if you're not sure what to do, like just keep going, like take action, start now. And as you do it, you're going to learn. As you talk to people, you're going to learn, and you're going to learn what you need to take as a next step to build. I think oftentimes authors think I got to have everything built. I got to have everything ready. I got to have the perfect social media. I got to have like all these things ready, and that it stalls them from really beginning because it feels so overwhelming, like incredibly overwhelming. So I say, just start small and grow it. Yeah.
And find something to connect with your audience over.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing I'll share is like, I'm a big fan as a case study of Atomic Habits, the book by James Clear. And he tells you in the introduction of your book exactly how he built his platform. And it was back in 2012 when he started publishing twice a week what he was learning about habits on his website, and offered a newsletter. So an email subscription, or not paid subscription, but just subscribe to his newsletter. Yeah. And he did that consistently. And he, within his first year, I think he had like a few thousand subscribers, and then he jumped to like 30,000, I believe 40,000. The next year was like 120,000. And I believe like two things: his content was good, but second is he was consistent. Too many people start and then don't stick with it.
Yeah. Excuse me. I think some people, expect instant gratification, and consistency is you've got to show up and you've got to do the work of building your platform, even when it seems like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I had a tickle in my throat. You guys also work as agents for traditional publishing. How did that come about, and how has that changed the way that you're able to offer services?
Yeah. So I think that came about with FranklinCovey, just learning like how an agent works. FranklinCovey had an agent, and so I understood, like, you put a book proposal together, you send it to the agent gives you feedback, and then the agent would circulate it around to publishers. And so, like, that's kind of, at the time, FranklinCovey, like, they have their go-to publishers that usually publish their books. For a new author, like, there's a lot of publishing houses where you don't have to have an agent anymore, but there are publishing houses, usually the big five, that do require that they only accept submissions from agents.
Right.
But what I learned is a proposal is a great tool, whether or not you want to traditionally publish. I call it your book business plan. And so at Juxtabook, pretty much every author I work with, to understand where they're at, I have them fill out our book proposal, which actually is free on our website for anyone who wants to just get our template. But it's split into 3 sections: about the book, about the author, and then your launch and marketing plan. And what those 3 sections tell me is, first, does an author have a clear understanding of what their book's about and who their target audience is? The about the author section tells me whether or not they have a clear brand they're building, a platform, and if they're credible to write the book. And then third, like with the marketing and publishing or marketing, like what ways can they use their network and their brand and their platform to market and build up sales for their book. And I've had authors that come at all different levels, and we start where they are.
Gotcha. If someone is thinking about writing a book, or if someone has a book they have written and are wondering, okay, what do I do with it now? What can they expect from Juxtabook, and when in the process should they come look you up?
Yeah, I would say as soon as you're thinking about it. And I can tell you from, like, I offer free initial consultations, and I can tell usually right away, like, hey, you need to go work on this first and then come back. Or like, yeah, we can help you with X, Y, and Z. And here's the services we offer with that. So it's really, I take it by case basis on it. So, like, let's say, for example, earlier this week, I was talking to an author who wants to get out of their full-time job and jump into this consultancy, and they're working on a book full time, but like it's really hard to balance, like, when do they jump because of their income, and then or should they keep working on their book? And my advice to them is, like, keep working on your book, but figure out how to build up your business first, because the book, you're not going to build enough to sustain yourself on just the book and its royalties. But what the book will do is it will allow you to get into doors easier to sell your services. It'll allow you to raise your rates, because it's a signal. It's a signal to buyers and people who are looking for that particular problem to be solved. It's a signal that, like, hey, this individual's put in the time to write a book, probably know what they're talking about.
Right. Right. So Zach, if someone is listening and they think, Juxtabook sounds like a service that I'm interested in, where do they begin, and where do they need to go?
Yeah, reach out, go to our website, go to our website, juxtabook.com, or we have social media. You can reach out on Instagram or Facebook, and let's set up a consultation and let's meet. And we're redoing our website right now to make it more clear and have a little more process on there. But you can right now schedule a free consultation with myself or someone on my team, and let's discuss, let's figure it out. Like, I love helping authors. I love helping them figure out where they want to go. And whether that's with us or with someone else or a different path, I just feel privileged that I can be like a little piece, a little page in their book of their author journey that's helped them figure out where they want to go.
Excellent. Well, Zach, we will link up all those places, your website and your social media, in the show notes of this episode when we release it, and to make it easy for folks to find you. Zach, thank you so much for coming on today, sharing what you do and giving some people some insight into what it means to publish today.
Absolutely. This was wonderful. Thanks, Hank.
That's our episode for today. There's so much more to come as we talk to authors about the craft of writing, but also the business of publishing. Be sure to subscribe to the Storycraft Cafe podcast in your favorite podcast app so that you never miss an episode. The Storycraft Cafe is made possible by Dabble. Writing a book is challenging. Your writing tool should not be. Dabble is an easy-to-use online writing tool packed with helpful features that allow beginning novelists and published authors to create amazing stories. Visit us at dabblewriter.com and start your free trial today. Thanks for listening.